The law of cosines is another method in order to solve any kind of triangle and figure out the rest of its unknown sides and angles. The law of cosines here reads to be like a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b c cosine of a. Now, these are all, notice all three of these guys are the same thing. I wrote it out 3 times because in case some of you guys like looking at this, knowing what sides you have. If you just want to know one of these, know how it goes, this a squared here, this number outside here is the unknown side, or the I wrote that all in one word. That's the unknown side, um, or it's the side opposite the angle given. And then these would be the two sides given, and also the two sides given, and this would be the angle that's given. All right, but anyway, when we use this, we use the law of cosines when we're given two sides in the included angle, which means when we're given side angle side or side side side. And the reason for that is for the law of sines, we had to have an angle across from a side given. So we had to know this was like 30 degrees and this was 8. And then we had to know one other part, like this was 10, okay? And then we could do the law of sines because we had an angle and a side opposite. Well, if we're given something, some triangle, we don't always have to be given an angle and a side opposite. What if we're given two sides like this, and this angle in here is 35 degrees? Well, we can't set up a law of sines because I have too many unknowns. I'd have to say, well, the sine of 35 all over a equals the sine of, I don't know any other angles, so I guess I'd have to say b over 8. Well, then all of a sudden now we have two variables and we can't solve it, right? So anytime we're given two triangles with side angle sides, so we're given a side, the angle that's smashed in between the other side, we have to do the law of cosines. Or if we're given side, 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 which means we're given all three sides, we have to use the law of cosines. All right, so here we go. I have two examples for you. Example number 1 says solve triangle ABC if A equals 52.17 degrees, B equals 6, and C equals 8. Let's go ahead and write this out. Okay, so let's label it A, B, and C. Remember that little a, and little b, and little c are opposite the capital letters. So little b is right here at 6. Little c is opposite big C, and then angle A is 52.17 degrees. Okay, so we're given side, angle, side. So we're going to have to use the law of cosines. And the law of cosines, we're going to have to solve for this side across from A. We're going to solve for, we're going to use that very top one that's listed. We're solving for little a. So we'll have a squared equals, let's see, b squared plus c squared, which would be 8, minus 2 times 8 times 6 times the cosine of the angle 52.17 degrees. All right, so all we have to do for this is we just have to type it into our calculator here. So I'll move it over here so we can see it. Oops. I guess not. So it was 6 squared plus 8 squared minus, in parentheses, 2 times 8 times 6 times the cosine of 52.17. I better make sure this thing is in degrees. Okay, my calculator is in degrees. So let's hit this. And we get 41 point something. But notice that the equation that we have says a squared equals that. So what we did is we figured out all of this stuff over here to be 41 point and so forth, whatever, and change, right? So in order to answer that guy, we're going to have to take the square root, right? So because we still have a squared equals 41 point yada yada. So I'm just going to take on my calculator, I'm going to take the square root of this number right here. So my square root button is right here. the square root of this number right here. And so my side length is 6.41. 6.41. And that's the side length A. Now, here's an example of where we're not going to be able to, we won't be able to avoid using a rounded answer. So we're just going to have to use this rounded answer, and that's okay. We'll just round to the nearest hundredth. And as long as we do the same thing, we'll all be on the same page. Now here you have choices. You can use the law of cosines to find these other angles, or this thing falls apart pretty fast if we just do the law of sines now. When you say the sine of 52.17 divided by 6.41 equals, I don't know, let's say we're solving for angle C, equals the sine of C all over 8. And we all know how to do the law of sines. We're going to cross multiply, right? And then divide. So it'll be 8 times 6.14. It'll be 8 times the sine of 52.17. And then we're going to divide that by 6.41. And then we have to take the sine inverse of that. So why do we have to do that? Because this is saying if we cross multiplied, we have 8 sine of 52.17 all over 6.14. That's what I just did in my calculator. I'm still left over with sine of C. In order to solve for C, I had to do the sine inverse of it. So now I have to say the sine inverse of this guy right here, and that is 80.3132 degrees. So 80.32 degrees is C. 80.32 degrees. And then obviously we can find out what B is very easily. We can subtract from 180. So we can go 180 minus 52.17 minus 80.32 and so forth. So that's solving the triangle. We're not given a right triangle, and we can still solve that triangle. Here's example 2, and now they're going to give us 3 sides. So let's go ahead and draw our triangle. Okay, and so let's label it A, B, and C. All right, I know that A is way bigger than C. I just drew my triangle. Don't worry about the sides of the triangle. So anyway, little a is 21, little b is 16.7, and little c is 10.3. Right, and we're given side, and now all that's left to do is try to find the angles. Okay, we can still do that. Say we're looking for angle A. If we're looking for angle A, remember that the side opposite the angle that's given that you're looking for is on the outside or on the left side of the equal to sign. So this would be A squared, so this would be 21 squared. All right, and then so now we use our other sides as a one on the right side. All right, so we're gonna use this guy and this guy on the right side of the equal sign. So it's gonna be 10.3 squared plus 16.7 squared minus 2 times 10.3 times 16.7 times the cosine of A. We're trying to solve for A. All right. And we've been given everything else. And now all we need to do is we need to turn to our calculator a little bit and work it out. So I'm going to try to move this over here again without it messing up. All right, here we go. So 21 squared, we might as well figure out what that is right away. 21 squared is 441. I guess I could have probably done that in my head. 441 equals, let's go 10.3 squared plus 16.7 squared. And this over here, these two added together, after we square them first, then we add them together, we get 384.94. And then let's go 2 times 10.3 times 16.7. 2 times 10.3 times 16.7. So now we have minus 344.02 times the cosine of A. Okay, so now we got to get the cosine of A by itself, so let's go ahead and subtract 384.94. We're going to subtract that from 441. We're going to bring it over to the other side. So 441 minus 384.94. And on this left side here, I'm left over with 56.06 equals negative 344.02 cosine of A. In order to get cosine of A, I got to divide. So I'm going to take this answer and I'm going to divide it by a negative 344.02. And let's put parentheses so it doesn't get confused with my minus and my subtract sign. So this becomes a negative 0.16 and so forth equals the cosine of A. And in order to solve for, get rid of this cosine, we take both sides by the cosine inverse, right? So I'm going to take the cosine inverse of this number right here. And my output is 99.37 degrees. All right, so 99.37 degrees is this answer. And now again, like I said, if you don't like the law of cosines, you can continue using the law of cosines if you want to, but the rest of this just falls apart using the law of sines. So we can use the law of sines by, I don't know, let's say we want to solve for angle B. So we can say the sine of 99.37 all over 21 equals the sine of B all over 16.7. And then again, we can solve. So we're going to multiply. I'm going to have 16.7 times the sine of 99.37 divided by 21. And that's going to equal the sine of B. And then once we're done with all those calculations, we're going to take the sine inverse, and we'll have our answer. So here we go. So we have 16.7 times the sine of 99.37 degrees. We're going to divide by 21. And then in order to get B by itself, we're going to take the sine inverse of that. And we're left over with 51.69. So what did that say? 51.69. So this answer right here is 51.69. And then in order, we can just subtract from 180. So if we add 99, sorry about that. Come on. Anyway, so if we add, what was it, 99 point, or so let's go 180 minus 99.37 minus 51.69, and we're left over with 21.94. So our last answer, sorry about that, I lost my writing. It was 21.94 was my last angle. Hope that helps. See you in class.